Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, another twist in the bizarre and revealing story of Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. After a weekend of commiserating with his advisors, Northam now says he is not one of the men pictured on his 1984 yearbook page wearing blackface and a Klan robe. At first, Northam seemed to concede that at least one of the men was him. Now he says he has no idea who those guys are, though he strongly disagrees with their outfits. Trace Gallagher has been following this story since the first weird moments of it, and he joins us to sort out who is who, if anyone. Trace?
Tucker, in a meeting with his top staff members today, Governor Ralph Northam reportedly said he needs more time to clear his name because he doesn't want to leave office as a, quote, racist for life. But Northam also realizes that his support system has evaporated, particularly within his own party. When the story broke during this show on Friday night, Northam initially apologized for appearing in the photo showing a person in blackface and another in a KKK costume, though he didn't say which was him, and then he backtracked. Watch.
I am not and will not excuse the content of the photo. It was offensive, racist, and despicable. When I was confronted with the images yesterday, I was appalled that they appeared on my page, but I believe then and now that I am not either of the people in that photo. I took an oath to uphold this office and serve the people of this Commonwealth to the best of my ability. As long as I believe I can effectively fulfill that task, I intend to continue doing the business of Virginia.
So in a bizarre twist, Northam denies being in the blackface photo, but admits dressing up in blackface as Michael Jackson in a dance contest. Watch this.
I had the shoes, I had a glove, and I used just a little bit of shoe polish to put under on my cheeks. And the reason I used a very little bit is because I don't know if anybody's ever tried that, but you cannot get shoe polish off. But it was a dance contest. I had always liked Michael Jackson. I actually won the contest because I had learned how to do the moonwalk.
And Northam appeared for a moment willing to demonstrate the moonwalk. Now, if the governor does step down, Democratic Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax would likely take his place, except Fairfax is now facing sexual abuse allegations from back in 2004, though he claims the relationship was consensual. If needed, the Virginia Attorney General is third in line to become governor. Tucker.
Used to be such a placid state. Trace, thanks very much. Well, looking back on it all, maybe the greatest irony of Ralph Northam's political career is that he got elected governor by claiming the other guy was a racist. Race was not an integral or obvious part of the gubernatorial campaign, but Northam and his allies injected it anyway in an effort to terrify and motivate voters. They succeeded in the ugliest possible way. Here's one example. Watch this ad.
Is this what Donald Trump and Ed Gillespie mean by the American dream?
Well, what you just saw was libel. Whatever else he was, Ed Gillespie was not a bigot. He was a corporate lobbyist from New Jersey who once encouraged the Republican Party to increase non-white immigration into the country. But for the purposes of the Northern campaign, Gillespie had to be a racist, not because he really was, but because calling him one works. It always works, and that's why they're still saying it. Watch as the robots over at MSNBC explain that blackface and a Klan hood on a Democratic governor's yearbook page are actually, despite what you may think, the product of Republican sin. It's Trump's fault. Watch.
When did blackface become a thing again? Why does it seem as if blackface is all of a sudden front and center in America again? What's happening?
I think it has something to do with what Donald Trump has unleashed. It has something to do with what's the reservoir that's underneath our politics that can always be activated at any moment.
Ken Cuccinelli is the former Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia. He ran for governor in 2013. He joins us tonight. Mr. Cuccinelli, thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure.
Northam seemed, to me, the last guy in the world who'd have a Klan hood on his yearbook page. He also seemed like the last guy in the world who would be affiliated with an ad like that, which was run by an independent group, but still on his behalf, he did not denounce.
Oh, yeah, no, and they didn't back away from that at all. It was offensive.
So I hate to gloat over a man as he's being destroyed, and I mean that, but there is an irony here.
Oh, well, if you're going to weaponize charges of racism where there is no basis, as you said, anybody who knows Ed Gillespie on both sides of the aisle knows he is no racist. He isn't bigoted in any way.
Ed Gillespie?
Ed Gillespie.
I mean, it's like,
and
exactly.
And for Northam, and frankly, I served in the state Senate with Ralph. He's a very mild-mannered individual. For him to not distance himself from something like that was very personally disappointing. And then you see this from 35 years ago, the blackface and the Klan, which he made his own piece of the yearbook there. He either thought it was amusing at the time, and remember, Doug Wilder was running for lieutenant governor then. This is not, the 1920s or the 1950s. No. And so Ralph is hoisted on his own petard here, and as are some other Democrats.
What does that mean?
Well, Kamala Harris, when she congratulated him in her tweet out when he won the governor's race, oh, thank goodness Virginia's been preserved from bigotry by Ralph Northam. Well, she was one of the first to throw him over the side when these pictures emerged on Friday. And of course, this is 2 days after he made comments that were quite accepting of infanticide, of a child born alive being left to die.
So I'm just a little bit confused. I mean, I've seen the Democratic Party stand by, to its credit or discredit, either way, I guess, stand by politicians who've been accused of done far worse than this, objectively speaking. But it didn't take long for the party to decide that Northam was expendable. What's the difference?
Well, and even beyond that, a lot of the people who are saying he should resign are saying, well, Ralph isn't a racist. I know him. I've known him for a long time. I've never seen a racist bone in his body. But with these out, he has to go because he can't govern anymore. And I was on with Bakari Sellers recently, and he said, well, look, if I'm going to keep calling Donald Trump a racist, I need to call this guy a racist. So they know that they can't back away from this on the left and still maintain their weaponized use of racism, even when it's inaccurate and untrue.
So this really should have been my first question, since you were a major political figure for a long time in the state of Virginia. You know Ralph Northam. You do not consider him a bigot personally, from what you know?
No, and I haven't, frankly, heard of anybody in Virginia politics who's said he is a bigot. They've called for him, many of them have called for him to resign because of these pictures that have come out. But none of them have said, no, I've seen Ralph, or I've suspected Ralph.
Right,
None of them have said that. None of them have said that.
Really quick, you think he'll stay?
I do think he'll stay, and part of the reason I think he'll stay is now because Justin Fairfax, the lieutenant governor, is under a cloud of sexual assault allegations that appear to be a straight he said, she said, and his first counterattack on it, the Washington Post themselves came out and said was false. So he's dug himself a hole too, and it makes it easier for Ralph Northam to remain in the governor's office when, if he left, they'd essentially be importing a sexual assault allegation scandal right into the governor's office.
The whole thing is unbelievable. Ken Cuccinelli, thank you
Good
very
to be
much.
with you, Tucker.
Well, you remember that the longest-serving Democrat, the longest-serving senator, really, in American history was a former KKK recruiter called Robert Byrd. When Byrd, who was from West Virginia, died, it was just in 2010, then President Barack Obama heaped praise on his memory. Ralph Northam, by contrast, does not occupy an essential Senate seat in a battleground state. He could be replaced tomorrow by an even more reliable lieutenant governor. Therefore, Democrats are demanding that he resign immediately. Watch the litany.
He needs to resign immediately to stop the pain in Virginia and, frankly, around the nation.
I think that the governor should resign.
He's lost the authority to govern. He has to resign.
I think he should resign now.
Should he resign?
Yes, he should step down and start his road to redemption.
He should resign. So disturbing, so racist. There's no place for racism in our government.
So far be it for this show to defend Ralph Northam, and to be clear, who would put that kind of garbage on a yearbook page? But it does nevertheless raise the question, when is it okay to forgive the mistakes of others? Zaid Julani is a journalist. He's a man of the left. Over the weekend, he tried to answer that question in an insightful essay he wrote for Quillette. He put it this way, quote, "We've all done things we're not proud of in our past, and our most offensive and obnoxious moments do not encapsulate our lives. But given an American elite culture that is regressing to a secular version of old puritanical norms, whereby sinners are branded for life and there are political points to be scored for casting them into hellfire, it is not surprising that Northam was immediately deluged with calls to resign." Zaid Julani joins us tonight. Mr. Julani, thanks very much for coming on.
Yeah, great to be here.
So the reason I love this essay, and I assume we don't agree on anything politically, but I thought you made a very fair point in that, when can we forgive someone in American politics now? Is that impossible? Does everyone have to lie because they can't be forgiven?
I mean, I think one of the things that our ancient traditions, our ancient religions, and science agree on is that people's behaviors and attitudes don't stay the same over time.
Yes.
People change dramatically over time. They certainly changed dramatically over 35 years. Nobody has alleged that Ralph Northam has done anything as a physician or as a public servant that is in any way bigoted or racist. So why is a snapshot of his life from 35 years ago being used to totally encapsulate who this man is? It's totally irrational. And by the left jumping on this bandwagon and calling to resign, they're undermining their own philosophy. How can they say criminal justice reform in one breath, say that we need to let murderers and rapists and batterers and robbers out of prison early, which I agree with, by the way. I do agree that they deserve a second chance and they should be rehabilitated. But they say that someone who did something offensive, obnoxious, stupid, and racist one time in their life should therefore be barred from political office no matter what he's done in the rest of his life. It doesn't make any sense, and these Democratic politicians are being totally unprincipled.
So you actually had an example, I wish I had it in front of me, in the piece of a felon who was going on to run for office after getting out, and this was, I'm not arguing against it, but approved of by the left as an example of redemption.
Yeah, I mean, this man in Texas actually knifed another man to death. He killed a man. And a number of left-wingers said it's great that he's running for office now because he shows that someone can turn their life around, redeem themselves. And by the way, I don't disagree with that. But the left at the same time has gone after Northam. It's gone after 15-year-old teenagers on the mall who may have made one or two offensive gestures. They're trying to destroy individuals instead of looking at the structures that are creating much stronger and much more destructive behaviors. 1 out of 3 black children in the state of Virginia are living in poverty. Why isn't that the national crisis? Why isn't that a national emergency? Why is a photo in a yearbook from 35 years ago the emergency?
Exactly. Well, maybe because they don't feel like changing the structures that are destroying children.
Honestly, a lot of them don't. Honestly, that's the truth. I've worked in and around the Democratic Party for a long time, and I don't think a lot of them are convinced that that's the main priority.
So they focus instead, as you point out in the piece, on symbolic crimes rather than actual crimes or crises.
Because the reality is, okay, for instance, Kirsten Gillibrand was one of the people who called for Northam to resign. She was a corporate lawyer for Philip Morris for 4 years when the Clinton administration was suing Big Tobacco. She helped an industry that killed millions of people. And she's out here saying that what Ralph Northam did was a stupid racist prank when he was like a medical student is inexcusable. And she was someone who didn't just do something symbolically wrong. She defended an industry that was actually killing people. If we actually focus on the substance of policy, these are the people who should be resigning, or at least apologizing and making amends, which is what Ralph Northam is doing now, which is what he should do. But he should not resign because it would create a terrible norm. We'd be searching the tweets and the Facebook likes of every kid for 20 years, trying to find something racist, trying to ruin their lives, which is not the way forward. He should make amends. He should apologize to African Americans, and then he should pursue policy to improve their lives. That's what he should do.
You are welcome on this show anytime. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Well, there was a brief window between the moment he publicly endorsed infanticide and the day reporters found a Klan hood on his yearbook page. And on that day, Governor Ralph Northam held a press conference to explain why he supports abortion. Most of what Northam said at that press conference was familiar, was the usual boilerplate written by the same abortion clinic lobbyists who fund so many Democratic campaigns. But buried in the slogans was something genuinely revealing. Here's what Ralph Northam said, quote, "We believe that reproductive freedom leads to economic freedom for women," end quote. Freedom. Well, you've heard that word countless times from pro-choice politicians. The argument, of course, is abortion is liberation. Abortion sets you free. None of that is true. The closer you get, the more obviously false it is. At best, abortion is a deeply sad thing. Ask anyone who's had one. So why does our ruling class keep pushing abortion on the country? Well, Ralph Northam just explained it as clearly as anyone has. Abortion leads to economic freedom, he said. It brings prosperity. Almost everyone in coastal America believes this as a matter of faith. Former hedge fund executive Chelsea Clinton once explained the reasoning here in some detail. Quote, "American women entering the labor force from 1973 to 2009 added $3.5 trillion to our economy. The net new entrance of women, that is not disconnected from the fact that Roe became the law of the land in January of 1973, end quote. In other words, abortion boosts markets. It frees women from the tiresome demands of motherhood and allows them to fulfill their higher duty, which is to corporations. Childless women make more dutiful, obedient workers. They can work longer hours. They take less time off. They are loyal to company first. This is all great for GDP. Chelsea Clinton and the rest of the investor class strongly approve of it. Stop breeding and get to work. That's how they feel. How ingrained is this attitude? Well, here's how the New York Times described a story about the Japanese economy just this past weekend. Quote, Japan needs moms in the workplace, but many are stuck in limited roles as they shoulder most of the burden at home. Limited roles. That's how the New York Times describes motherhood. And from the perspective of private equity, they're right. Having children may perpetuate the species. It may add meaning to your life, but it won't boost the stock price. It does nothing for shareholder value. As economists at the United Nations put it, and it's on their website right now, when more women work, economies grow. Well, that means that when women decide to have and raise kids, economies shrink. So from this perspective, motherhood is a selfish choice. We've got widgets to make, forms to fill out, meetings to attend. Mush, get to work. 2 years ago, a columnist in the Daily Telegraph called for the government to ban stay-at-home moms. They should be in the workforce, adding to the bottom line. So this is the real reason our elites so enthusiastically support abortion. It doesn't set you free. It won't make you happier, but it will make companies more profitable. And that's what matters most to them. Pro-choice means pro-corporate. Whatever else he's done, Ralph Northam has made that clear.